Okay, we can start.
Yeah, we can go.
Uh, Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to the webinar. Uh, Ravinder sir, I would like the president of IT Delhi Alumni Association, Mr. Ravinder Kumar, to please start the webinar by giving the welcome note.
Yeah, thank you, Natasha, uh, giving me an opportunity to give a welcome note address to the webinar. I welcome all the distinguished panelists, experts who has given the time to be part of this webinar. I welcome all of you. And the webinar topic which has given is the topic of the webinar is skills, jobs, and careers in the COVID times. When COVID times comes to the mind, it can be summarized by the one single acronym VUCA: volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. As you know that this was the term coined by the leading leadership theorist, Mr. Uh, Warren Bennis and Bert Nuns. This term was coined in 1987. So I feel that this term VUCA describe the situation, COVID time situation, and how to handle this type situation. It has come that the skills required for such situations are agility, positive mindset, mental resilience, adaptability. You should have a clarity of purpose. These are the things, I mean, that's come out that these skills are to be there to handle such situations. As we know that there are new normal, a lot of things we are talking, work from home. There are new job opportunities are coming in the IT, ITS, or health, pharmaceutical, environment. But to my mind, the most important, the sector which is going to impact for the job prospect for the career will be the agriculture, because agriculture is the sector which has beaten up the pandemic. It is the only sector which has shown the growth. And our country, you know, the maximum population uh, are dependent on the agriculture. So I feel the agriculture is going to be the major sector for the job, career, and other thing. I just recollect that while I was returning from Jaipur to my current residence, Gurgaon, my wife casually commented that the unemployment problem, the urbanization, the migration will be solved if the time comes in India when people line for a job to work in agriculture field. I told her agriculture is not a profitable as a business activity across the world. But now I think that she has been partly true, because the pandemic time has given us opportunity to rethink about the agriculture. Because in the COVID time, the nutrition, immunity which develops through nutritional diets, these have become very important now. So, in my hope, the agriculture related sectors will have a lot of business opportunity, a lot of agripreneur will come, and there will be totally mindset will be there, a totally change in mindset about the agriculture and agriculture related economy and other things. When I spoke about this uncertain, we use a acronym volatility, uncertainty, ambiguity, complexity. I have shared my thoughts. Yes, we required mental agility, resilience, all these things. But apart from those skills, the other important skill will be the ethics, moral values, which a candidate who wants to aspire, a person who wants to aspire for a future career should have. And in my opinion, this value system, the ethics are imparted by the teachers. And today is the Teachers' Day. My alma mater, IIT Delhi, is celebrating Diamond Jubilee, this year. I'm all the alumni, including me, are very grateful to our alma mater, who what we are today because of our teachers. Having said that, that current scenario, I mean, if you see the national education policy also, the lot of importance is given to teachers. It is very surprising that teaching as a job doesn't come into the first 10 career aspect. And people doesn't aspire. This is not a like demanding job. The teaching used to be a very respecting job in recent past. So this, I think, with the time, we need to correct. We have to think, I think, at the end of this webinar, at least we'll be able to come out with some idea how to reignite or how to reimagine the institution of the teaching. Because teaching is very, very important, very critical during COVID time and the beyond COVID time. Because if you read the newspaper, other thing, the teacher has kept the hope alive. Even there, many of them are not comfortable with the online teaching. They are adapted with the online teaching. Even many have come to that level that they are using augmented reality, virtual reality tools to teach the students. So definitely, the teachers need to be require more recognition from the society. We have to evolve a system where the teaching become a very aspiring, job for the aspiral population. It should be viewed as one mobility in the career. Then, having said that, this year theme on the UNESCO teachers, which will be on 5th October. Even I have also planning on behalf of IIT Delhi Administration to have another one more World Teachers Day on 5th October. 5th October is a UNESCO Teachers Day, which the theme is that the theme which is almost near to our today's theme. The UNESCO theme says teachers leading in crisis, reimagining in the future. So the today's seminar is, and being on a Teachers' Day, is almost has touched upon that UNESCO theme. With that, I just conclude my thoughts by quoting Dr. Radhakrishnan, on whose birthday we have celebrated Teachers' Day. He said that teachers should be the best mind in the country. And now, I again welcome all the distinguished panelists, subject experts, IIT Delhi alum, IIT Ahmedabad alums, other attendees to this very thought-provoking webinar. I especially welcome Mr. T.N. Hari, Abhishek Singhi, Pradeep Gupta, and Mayank Kumar. Jai Hind. Over to Natasha. You take forward.
Thank you so much, Ravi sir, Ravinder Kumar. Now I would welcome Kalpen Shukla to please welcome all the esteemed panelists.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Ravi, for this wonderful opening remarks. As you rightly said, it's a challenging time that we are going through, and therefore we need to be really very cautious as to how exactly we go ahead in terms of planning of the future and in terms of the skill sets that we need to build. I think we have a wonderful, eminent panel today who can really throw light on how to survive not just this VUCA world, but this stressful situation that has been created by pandemic COVID. Today we have a panel of very eminent speakers, each one with a very brilliant corporate career behind, and therefore each one has been a teacher come trainer, mentor for many. We have Pradeep Gupta, as Ravi said, fondly called PG. He is an IITD, IIM Calcutta alumnus, chairman of Cyber Media Group, founder of Indian Angel Network, a pioneer at Pan IIT movement, and a distinguished alum from IIT Delhi. We also have T.N. Hari, IIT Madras, IIM Calcutta alumnus. He is a chief HR officer of Big Basket, one of those unicorns. He is ex-Taxi for sure, and he's author of multiple books on entrepreneurship. Someone who can really share a lot of insights as to how to transit from corporate to even entrepreneurship. We have Abhishek Singhi, one person who seems to have followed me right from hostel days in building up this. He is IIT Delhi, IIM Ahmedabad, managing director and senior partner at BCG, author of several books, a chemical engineer from IIT Delhi. We also have Mayank Kumar, IIT Delhi alumnus, MD of Upgrade. He is co-founder and MD of Upgrade. Upgrade is, as you all would know, is a online higher education company which is targeting working professionals with online programs in partnership with universities. We also have a very interesting moderator who has changed a couple of definitions. MBA from FMS Delhi, who has converted board into board. I'm sure he will tell you what second board means. He's also changing the definition of HR from conventional human resources to human resources. And he also has a blackmailing tactic of saying that he will faint if you don't appreciate his humor. But let me assure you that will not happen. So over to you, Vikram. We look forward to a very interesting, engaging session. And thanks all the panelists for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kalpen, and all the audience who's watching this. I hope you can join me in welcoming all our amazing panelists for this session. And you notice that this session has, of course, been organized by the IIT Delhi Alumni Association in association with the IIM Ahmedabad Alumni Association Mumbai chapter and Careers for Sure. Now, guys, I'll be honest. I love that term Careers for Sure because if you see my corporate life resume, it clearly says otherwise.
No, definitely. With us, you'll have careers for sure.
Because, sir, I'll be honest, it's like if any recruiter would see my CV, it's more like career. I think maybe you need to consider an upgrade. Now, I just wish to clarify at this point that Mayank did not pay me anything to promote Upgrade in this webinar, which also tells you a lot about my capabilities as an entrepreneur, that I could not get him to pay me anything to promote Upgrade. But to all the B school students who are listening to this show, guys, I am not worried. I know I will always get a job, because when I see your LinkedIn profiles and I see the number of internships that you guys have listed on your LinkedIn profile, I get the impression that India is the world's largest employer. So I think you guys are doing just wonderfully. But to be fair, I'll tell you something. We were asked to share, our introductions, all the panelists in the WhatsApp group that was created for this purpose. And actually, I don't know if the panelists realized that my introduction was the longest. Because in true corporate fashion, the person with the least achievements will always provide the longest introduction. In fact, since this is an IIT Delhi event, I think I should share a law of physics. But then I thought, this is also a B school event. So I think it should make it a law of corporate physics. So guys, this is the Boardroom Comedy's first law of corporate physics, which states that the longer and more elaborate your LinkedIn profile, in reality, more useless is your job. Like, have you seen people describe themselves on LinkedIn? It'll be something like strategic interface between the firm and the external environment. You're a receptionist. But I know what some of you are thinking, why is there comedy here? This is a serious event, for serious times. And see, I know many corporate executives think, watching this are also thinking, yaar, not another webinar. Matlab, isse to naukri se nikal de, yaar. But guys, see, unlike you, I haven't experienced death by webinar as yet, kyunki meri to naukri hi webinar karna hai. But I want to share something with this audience. Naukri se nikala jana, yes, that is an experience I have had. And I'm sure a lot of you are either facing that with jobs, with internships, with careers, struggling to find them, struggling to keep them. I mean, it's like this feeling of it's like 2020 mein to struggle hi meri dulhan hai, you know. Now, guys, I faced the same situation way back in 2009, you know, during the slowdown, during the global recession. In fact, I got laid off from a consulting firm. I just wish to clarify that consulting firm was not BCG, or that is for Abhik's sake, or else, you know, Abhik will be like, I don't even want to talk to this guy. But eventually it led to a career in comedy. So see, basically the reason I am the moderator for this session is to ensure that you guys don't make the same mistake. And that's why today, to give you guys better advice, we have an incredible set of panelists. And, you know, while I don't know if I can hear all of you physically, but please join me in welcoming them with a huge round of applause. Now, with regards to, you know, all our panelists, I thought, you know, we would start with the order in which I spoke to each of the panelists earlier. You know, so I would like to start with Abhik. Now, Abhik, there is a WhatsApp group for this event because it's not a webinar if you don't have at least 3 WhatsApp groups to coordinate the event. And of course, you have 1 WhatsApp group just to coordinate the other 3 WhatsApp groups. Now, in this group, I came across an interesting nugget about you. You know, someone in the group said that Abhik Singhi came to IIMK in my second year, and there he said that he went to IIMA just to get into HLL. And then he chanced upon this company BCG and thought it sounded good. So to all the B school students listening here, I mean, how many of you wouldn't love to say, yeah, I joined BCG because it sounded good? Wouldn't that be a career bucket list item for a lot of you guys listening? But Abhik, on a more serious note, you know, because we do want to address you know, the topic, and we spoke about this also. As a management consultant, you know, you are somebody who has a very close ear to the plans of India Inc., you know, the way companies are charting out, the kind of consultations you might be doing with companies and the government. So how do you see the landscape unfolding for jobs and careers in this new world, you know, based on your experiences, based on what, you know, you've come across? And what are the important things our audience needs to hear so that they are better prepared? Over to you.
Yeah. So thanks a ton, Vikram. And, you know, just to set the record straight, I think it is true that, you know, when I joined IIMA, my dream job was HLL, Hindustan Lever. That time it was called Hindustan Lever, now Hindustan Unilever. And the reason BCG happened was because I went to the BCG PPT and, you know, I saw the person who was making the PPT and I was really impressed, you know, by the person. So in some sense, I joined because of the person and not really because of the company. And obviously, yes, you know, BCG was well known. To your question, and if I, you know, break it up into 2 parts, if I think about, you know, the outlook for employment, you know, going forward, and the second is, you know, the capabilities per se. I think even before COVID happened, I think there was a move to some extent for people to move towards not really looking at conventional skills or conventional degrees only. And, you know, there was a statistic that somebody, you know, shared with me was, you know, if you look at people who graduated, you know, in 1975 or thereabouts, you know, in their lifetime, they would change something like 2.5 jobs on an average. This is based on the US. If you look at somebody, you know, who graduated in the 90s, you know, the number is expected to be about 5.5 jobs during their tenure. And then, you know, for those who are graduating in the last decade, you know, the expectation is that they will probably have not 2.5 jobs, but 2.5 careers over their working life. So if I had to, you know, look at the prospects, I think the prospects going forward from a perspective of finding capable talent, I think it is very high. But the set of things that people are looking for are different. And, you know, wearing both a recruiter's hat and somebody who's seen, you know, what companies are looking for, the 2 things which are probably the most important is the fact, you know, about how willing are people to learn and learn quickly? I think that's the one thing. I think it is very clear that what you learned in college or what you learned in your last job is just a starting point. It is very clear that over the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever time period, the exact set of capabilities is going to differ. So, does the person who is getting hired, does he or she have the ability to cope up and learn with something new? I think that is something which is very, very, very important. That's number one. The second piece, and given that there are quite a few people in the audience, IIT and IIM, the one thing I would say is, from a pure intellect perspective, from a pure ability to work hard perspective, I think these institutes are fantastic. I have recruited, hired people from not only India, but across the best universities and business schools of the world. I think over a 1 hour period, it is very clear that, let's say, a person from IIT or IIM is equal, if not better than many of, let's say, the Harvards or the Stanfords. But the one thing which we don't do well is learn to sell ourselves. And I mean it in a positive way, because I think many people who are from IIT, IIM tend to undersell themselves, in discussions or interactions. And notwithstanding what you said, Vikram, in terms of, the profile on LinkedIn, etc., how do you market yourself well? And it doesn't need to be long, but it needs to be impressive, because that's again a skill which, you will need at multiple points in your career. So those are the two things. I'm not getting into the specific, technical skills or the capabilities. I think the only thing on that is, technology is a given. I think, I recall, and, if you would bear with me for 30 seconds, I recall this is in late 80s. Computers were starting to become relevant. My parents were both professors. One of them, my father was a professor of sociology, my mother of chemistry. But obviously, from a technology perspective, they were not that aware of what was happening. And somebody told them that, computers are becoming big, so you should get Abhi to learn in that. So what did that person suggest? I should take up typing classes, so that, you learn how to type faster. But I think technology is obviously a given. But those two other skills, I think, are the ones which people are really looking for.
That's a great point. And I think I'm going to take you up on the selling yourself portion right away. So I felt that my introduction wasn't long enough and did not cover all my selling points. So for the purpose of the audience and the panelists, since you mentioned 5.5 jobs, I did about 4 jobs in my corporate career. So I was in consulting, then, as you know, I got laid off from there. Then I went to in-flight entertainment, did sales there. Then I went to investment banking, and now I'm doing corporate comedy. So it's been a very logical career progression, as all of you can see. And also wanted to address, something else that you primarily spoke of in terms of the marketing, ability that a lot of us essentially end up copying or what our peers are doing, right? I mean, if, that we should try to do something different based on, what we bring to the table or something different like that. That's one of the points that I kind of wanted to elaborate on. And I'd like to come to the next panelist. I'd like to ask Mayank, who's the co-founder of one of India's biggest online higher education companies. But Mayank, I'm afraid even you can't beat India's biggest online higher education company, which is WhatsApp University. And, I was just thinking, you guys can't even spell upgrade correctly, And I was wondering what's up with that, But, apart from the jokes, I'm sure that's one thing the audience would like to hear, Mayank, is how did you come up with the name and the spelling? Like, what was the thought process behind this? I think that's something that a lot of us would like to hear.
No, I think, yeah, it was, when we started off, our name was U Education. That's how we started. We did not want to think too much. We said it's good, it's a neat term. And I think upgrade came in one of our brainstorming session, that we wanted to upgrade everyone's life. We wanted to give them a graduate level course and not just a short program for them. And therefore, the twist on the word upgrade to upgrade to make it sound like we are making you move up. And if you look at when we created the logo and see at the end of the day, in hindsight, you can make up many stories. But at that point in time, on that day, that was what was decided and you ended up creating it. In the hindsight, if you look at upgrade logo, the G looks like a refresh button. So it was also a refresh button in our in someone's life and in someone's career. It's a buffering or refresh button for us. Now I can create 15 story points as to what it meant. But at that point in time, it was a vote decision. 16 people, 5 people said yes. I said yes. We agreed upon that term and that logo, and we came up with that term, with that word, Vikram. Maybe just a very small thing to add. I think it's also, but I think the fact that when you start with upgrade, the name does not come in, but the thought behind it actually comes a lot with what, I mean, I resonate a lot with what Abhik said. And I go back a generation back also, maybe just to add to a point what Abhik said, that a generation back, parents used to be in one job throughout their lifetime. If you go 2-3 generations back, job used to get transitioned from one generation to another. So if you're from the family of, I don't know, carpenters, you will be a carpenter. If you're family from steel, you will be steel. If you're family of lawyers, you will be lawyers throughout. And I think our parents' generation moved from one generation job to another. And I think this generation is changing job as if it's changing a new calendar every year. So you need to get a new calendar, you need to get a job in the process. And I think the reason why the topic resonates, and I just want to sort of close on that, and the reason why upgrade came into existence was, if you just extrapolate the curve, because a lot of folks are from engineering background, so they want to extrapolate and they want to sort of go through. If one job was for 75 years in a family, one job was at 35 years in a family, one job is for 4 to 5 years in a family, you know the next touching point is going to be zero. So I think we will move more and more towards the gig-based economy. And when you get to the gig-based economy, you will not have a job through the rest of the life. And just upgrading on a consistent basis will become more and more relevant than it being as a polio vaccination that by 23 you should be done with your education. That no longer would be the case in the current ecosystem when skills and jobs are changing so rapidly. I think we lost Vikram.
Sorry, Mayank. I think okay. I think we missed a little bit because of technical, thing. I think the internet connection was also refreshing, maybe, like you mentioned. And I think for all the audience listening, I think if we look at Abhik's point about marketing now, I think one thing we can all definitely learn, and we spoke about this yesterday as well. The way you put your logo, in every place, where you're interacting. So I think that's something that the audience can also take away. That you should always look for whatever avenues, whether it's your personal brand or your company brand, to sort of put it out there. I really love the analogy of the refresh, that effectively it's a refreshing of careers. And since you mentioned that, that careers have been a sort of family progression, it's not just been one thing. So I sort of grew up in a family of MBAs. So my late father was from IIM Ahmedabad. He was in fact the president of the Mumbai chapter of the Alumni Association. My sister and brother-in-law went to SPGen, and that's where they ended up meeting, in fact. So theirs is a typical, campus love story. And I think I also sort of grew up in that environment. That's how I ended up, doing MBA as well. I always wanted to do it. Of course, when it comes to comedy, I think I'm the first person in my, entire family to do that. And the way it's been going so far, I think how this webinar goes and how you guys respond to it will determine whether the next generation will even consider taking it up as a career. I had one question for you, Mike. When we spoke on the call, you said, about services going online, that's a trend. So what kind of opportunities do you think that will throw up, for the audience that's listening right now? And what do these people need to do to be ready for them? How do we be ready for these opportunities? So that they are opportunities and not as threats or, struggles. How do we do that?
I think, I mean, we have BigBasket, which has taken a very large service online. So, I mean, as I said, Vikram, earlier that, look, I see internet waves and entrepreneurship sort of coming in 3 different ways. First was just information going online. Second was product going online. And third, when you take out the full services ecosystem going online. I may just do a stronger pitch for education. And I think we are in an era for whatever it's worth, the stars are getting aligned, or or say the quality of entrepreneurs in this ecosystem has really sort of taken up. I think education and that ecosystem space of services is actually throwing up a lot of opportunities, be it in K through 12, pre-K, higher education, so on and so forth. I strongly believe, Vikram, I don't think that to be ready, you need to do something. I think my personal take is that you will, none of us who are listening to this or listening to the webinar will ever be ready to doing something. I think the fact that if you are pained by something and if you feel really upset about certain things happening in a certain way in the ecosystem, and for me, starting off Upgrad, if you ask me whether I was ready to take the services online and education services online, I don't think I was ready. Was it the right time for me to go and launch and put on an entrepreneurial hat? I don't think it was the right time for me to do so. But I think the fact that I was extremely upset by 3-4 things. I was upset by the fact that I was not able to find a good, I was in a venture VC industry investing in the education sector. I could not find a good company to invest in. That pained me a lot. It pained me a lot that I come from a highly subsidized education system. IITs was paid by the government. Kendriya Vidyalaya, where I studied in my school, was paid by the government. And I used to complain about the higher education system. And then I realized that, look, I come from a very privileged society and privileged background where my entire education has been funded by the government. And if I'm not doing something about it, I cannot have an armchair critique position where I just keep on complaining. I strongly feel that for you to be ready, you just have to be a bit upset about the problem statement. And I'm sure Hari would appreciate from what he's doing at Survey. But you sometimes just feel really passionate about the topic. And if you feel passionate about the topic, I think you're always ready for taking up the topic and starting a venture on that zone. And for me, just last point, Vikram, I'll say my penny dropping moment and the point on readiness came from a visit to a college in Greater Noida. And I have a running joke that if you throw a stone in Greater Noida, you hit an engineering college. And there are so many engineering colleges that mushroomed out there. And one of the engineering colleges was completely empty. There were 4 kids, 2 from Chhattisgarh, 1 from Bihar, 1 from Bengal, who were studying an electrical engineering program, and no faculty would come in. The guard did not know that anything was happening in that college. And I realized they come from perhaps lower middle class to middle class family, where parents would have actually taken loans and spending $1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees to send their kids to Noida from the remote part. And that's the time I realized that, look, if this is the kind of education that we are going through, let's stop talking about demographic dividend. Let's talk about demographic disaster that is sort of coming and hitting us. And that was a thought process of starting with Upgrad. And that's where the readiness comes from, that you need a tipping point at some point in time when you feel, now this is enough, and you need to do something and throw in your hat in doing something at that point in time.
I think that's a great point. In fact, so, one is that you mentioned about that something was paining you. So, we also say in comedy that what hurts instructs, that even comedy in a similar way always comes from some sort of pain. Now you can either, go complain about it or use that to create something. And I think, most comedy in fact comes from pain points. And I think it's also important to address, a lot of young students, Gen Z, I've got interns at Boardroom Comedy and often, there will be this feeling, okay, the system is not working, there's challenges. And I think essentially what the point you made that, not be complaining, to go ahead and do something about it, to find a solution that works. I think that's, something really great that I took away from this. And also, since you mentioned Big Basket, I would in fact on that note only like to address our next panelist, Mr. T. N. Hari. So first up, before I ask you anything, I want to say that your online service model has made my life miserable in lockdown, because my mom keeps telling me to order from Big Basket. Abhi order ho gaya, abhi isko kaise karna hai, abhi kya karna hai. So just like Mayank, I have also learned from pain, a lot of these things. So sir, as compensation, I hope I can get some discount coupons out of this. That is something that I'm hoping for. Now, one of the questions I had for you, in our call earlier, we spoke about, you said something about having the right mindset. And, people, students, senior everyone who's listening to this, they're all facing this challenge right now. So what, in your view, did you mean by this, the right mindset? Could you elaborate on that, and how can it help our audience?
I don't clearly remember the phrase mindset I used, but no worries. I think let me think on my feet and try to respond with what the right mindset could be. So I think, a crisis like this is something that we will face once in a while. It may be rare. We faced this in 92. We faced this in 9/11 hit us, 2008 and 2020. So I think those who can, emerge successful out of these crises are those who bring some kind of a mindset and some kind of a leadership style, some kind of an inner strength that help deal with these kind of situations. And I have been thinking about this, in fact, I put together a book titled Sailing Through a Storm, Making a Crisis Work for You, where I've tried to figure out what kind of individuals crumble and what kind of individuals, are resilient. So I think resilience comes from a bunch of factors. And let me just try and outline some of these. So I just introduced 3 quick terms. There is something called intellect, and there's something called, uncluttered thinking, and there's something called character. I think these 3 progressively are better. Character is better than uncluttered thinking, which is better than intellect. I think intellect is about being able to understand complex things. It is being able to make those big interconnections, make those connections between different things. Whereas uncluttered thinking isn't being able to simplify complex things, isn't being able to figure out which connections matter and which connections don't matter. So you find that people with uncluttered thinking are never confused because they're able to prioritize very clearly. Often intelligent people tend to get confused because they're not able to figure out which are the things that don't matter and which are the things that matter. Therefore, they pay equal attention to everything. The last thing I think is character. The difference between, knowing and doing is what is character. A lot of us know things, but don't act on it. So for example, in 2008, John Paulson betted against the subprime market. Raghuram Rajan warned everyone. There were many smart people who knew that there was a big bubble building up. Everyone talked about it, but no one betted the farm and house against this. It was John Paulson and Warren Buffett who, betted against this and made huge money. So I think, character is in being able to bridging the gap between knowing and doing. So I think people who can weather crisis are those who can demonstrate character. So for example, the recipe for happiness, every single prophet throughout history has told us what is the recipe for happiness. But happiness continues to elude most of us because we know what is the source for happiness, but we just can't do what it takes to be happy. So I think that's an important point, I think, in terms of mindset to be able to, be resilient. The other thing I think is about courage. So courage is a very casual term that's used. Courage is not about not being afraid. It's about being able to act in spite of it. I think many of us, freeze when we are scared. I think it's about padding up to go and face the fastest bowler, even if you're thoroughly scared. So it's being scared to death, but padding up to go and face the fastest bowler in the world. So I think it's about, acting in the face of fear. So I think courage is a trait that, differentiates those who are resilient from those who crumble. The other thing is about, demonstrating, I would say, a feminine and a masculine leadership traits. I think a lot of us, tend to go one way or the other. And this feminine, masculine has nothing to do with men or women. It's what psychologists have traditionally attached to women and men. So for example, being caring, being collaborative are typically seen as feminine traits, whereas achievement orientation, aggression, assertiveness, goal orientation are all seen as masculine. But if you are only demonstrating one, then I think happiness will continue to elude you and long-term success will continue to elude you. I think in times of challenge, in times of difficulty, you need to bring a blend of both these traits, being able to demonstrate a caring attitude, empathy, soft-spoken, collaboration, as well as a focus on, achievement orientation and all of that. The last I would say is that, it helps to have some kind of purpose and meaning in life, I think it was Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist. I think, he was there as part of the Auschwitz camp, concentration camps of Nazis. He emerged, as a survivor, and he wrote this book, Man's Search for Meaning, in which he wrote one of the, traits that differentiates those who are resilient from those who crumble are the fact that those who are resilient believe that, search for meaning is one of the primary purposes of life. I think if you are focused a little bit on that, many of these things are easier said than done, I would say. But I think with some practice, with some awareness, with some effort, you can do all of this, including search for meaning in your life. Otherwise, you will always be focused on prestige, my job, my salary, my status in society, my LinkedIn, number of likes I get, Instagram posts, all of these. You're so worried about all of these that if anything disappears, you're going to feel unhappy about it. So I think looking inwards for a bit of happiness and meaning as opposed to always looking for external endorsements. Always, I meant. It's not, I'm not saying you shouldn't look for external endorsements at all, but being overly dependent on that, I think, makes you a victim to many of these crises and difficult situations in life.
I think, sorry, I completely agree with that point, and especially about the obsession with social media likes, and I think it's creates a very restricted environment, and we tend to see things in a very superficial level. I completely agree with you on that. In fact, guys, anyone, all the audience who's listening to this, please understand social media likes, shares, these are not important. Please do not go see my LinkedIn profile, Vikram Podar. I'm telling you, do not even waste your time going to my Instagram handle @Vikram Podar Comedian. Don't waste your time on my Twitter handle @Boardroom Comedy, because as we just established, these are things that we should not waste our time on at all. But honestly, on a more serious note, I think I completely agree with you on the fear aspect of it. It's something I've personally experienced in 2013. In fact, it was almost exactly on my 30th birthday. That's when I was out of the investment banking job eventually. I found out I'm no longer on the Comedy Store lineup, because I think I'd taken my initial success in comedy a little too seriously. Ironically, I took comedy a little too seriously, and I thought I was very good at it. I only realized that, okay, I had something, I had to work much harder. And my father was in the ICU at the same time, so for me, it's like the challenges that people are facing today, on a global scale, there's healthcare, financial, I kind of saw that at a very close range, at a very personal range. And I think I completely and totally agree with what you said about the resilience bit. I sometimes wonder what kept me going at that point of time. And I think in some ways it was the journey of my own father as well. He too, he was a small, he came from a small village from Rajasthan, just the oldest of 13 children. And from there, he went to BITS Pilani and IIM Ahmedabad. So, I think I kind of saw that growing up. And then he recovered from a kidney transplant again in 1986 when I was 3 years old. And then he started his entrepreneurship journey and did a lot of things. So I think we have a lot of inspiration also around us when it comes to resilience. For anyone who's feeling right now despondent or life is difficult, I think we can, whether it's in family, and of course we have some amazing panelists today, they shared some of their stories. And Mayank has spoken, of course, about, you can turn pain into a problem, or you can, turn it into a business opportunity and something that helps other people as well. So I think that's a great lesson we've taken from this. In fact, on that note, I would like to, come to our last panelist, because he's also had an incredibly long journey. So, sir, first up, as I mentioned in the call, I think talking to you was really nostalgic. If we can, sorry, you can just switch to Mr. Pradeep on the spotlight. Sir, first I wanted to say that talking to you was, it was a very nostalgic thing for me, because to all the IT engineers listening here, we need to know something, that the cyber media publication Voice and Data in its time was in fact the voice of data. It was the magazine. It was, everybody would just, as in my days as a computer geek, I used to teach computers in my school, in fact. So that tells you a lot about my social life and how popular I was in school and college, clearly. Now, sir, as someone who's seen the IT industry in its infancy, and as someone, you joined a startup, HCL, as it was back then, it was a startup. I know it's a difficult concept to get around today, that this multi-billion-dollar company was also a startup at one point, and you joined when it was not fashionable to join a startup. So, how did you deal with that uncertainty? That's the question that I had.
Thank you very much, Vikram. It's really a pleasure to be part of this panel. Great hearing, other speakers talk about, the education part of it, the relearning part of it, the philosophy of education and so on, which Hari, you shared beautifully. Vikram, it is interesting when I joined. MBAs never used to join startups during that time. I'm talking about mid-70s. Entrepreneurship was very low down on the list at that time. It has changed now. I mean, today it is one of the sought-after areas to join. But it was one of my professors, today's Teachers' Day, so I can proudly say it. Professor Ashok Agarwal of IIM Calcutta was a person who was responsible for sort of, saying that, yeah, why not look at this? And that's how I ended up joining HCL, and then after that, leaving them after 3 years, and then becoming an entrepreneur. And by the way, when I became an entrepreneur, I asked Dr. Agarwal to come on the board, and he was an early investor also, and so on. So, Teachers' Day is indeed a very, very special day for me. So, in terms of the topic, I would just like to say three things. One is, you talked about, Mayank talked about refresh, and of course, Abhik also talked about learning and so on. I think the focus of our education system has been on learning. Here, when we talk of refresh, it means that you need to unlearn, you need to learn, and you need to relearn. Okay. And so therefore, it is important that if the ability to learn is the focus of education rather than learning. Okay. It is that ability that we need to inculcate in people. So that's one point I wanted to make. Second thing is that, Ravi talked about VUSA and so on. The current term which is popular is FUD, right? FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, doubt. And that is what we are going through right now. And if you start looking at this, then I think one of the most important things is to have an entrepreneurial mindset. Now, as an entrepreneur, you are living with FUD every day. You're continuously looking with some sort of uncertainty, some sort of doubt, some sort of fear, and you're charting different kind of course during that FUD kind of a scenario. And I'm sure Mayank would agree that, every day when he gets to the office and looks at the business, there would be various kind of FUD issues that he would be grappling with. Now, why can't in our jobs also we do the same kind of thing, have the entrepreneurial ability and start looking at our job also as an entrepreneur? I think that is something which is very important. The third point I just wanted to make is that, COVID has been a fork in the road, right? And with this fork in the road, Vikram, you also talked about technology earlier. But if you use the VED analogy, which engineers are familiar with, it is not just that the technology is now desirable. It's not even that it is essential. It is not even that it is vital. It is imperative. It has to be built in. If it is not there as part of whatever business, whatever activity, whatever job role you're doing, then you will soon get outdated. And because of COVID, a whole lot of mindsets have changed. Work from home 6 months back, if you ask people, could companies work from home, and people have said, no, it is not possible. Today, it is absolutely possible. There are so many things which are permanently changed, and they are going to continue to change because of deep tech, which will start coming into each and every aspect of whether it is a home, whether it is a business, whether it is agriculture, whether it is whichever field you look at it, there will be permanent changes that will be taking place because of deep tech. So, third point I would just like to leave right now on the table is that whatever be your job role, be in touch with technology.
I think that's a really great point, and I can completely connect with it, because sometimes technology can really affect if you're not prepared for it. In one of the comedy shows that I was doing for a company, believe it or not, somebody in the audience was distracted. And I realized they were watching one of my own stand-up videos on their mobile phone. They were ignoring my live show and watching my own show on their mobile phone. So in effect, I was losing to myself because of technology. And I think I can completely relate to the term, FUD, as you mentioned, or VUCA, as it's used in HR circles also earlier. Because I think when it comes to stand-up comedy, it is literally what you do. It's like failure is not something you're looking to avoid. It is literally part of the process. If you look at some of the comedians, some of them even proudly talk about that show where they bombed. So for us, it's like, it is fear, or it can be fun. I would say if a show goes well, uncertainty, I don't know how it will go, and then finally D is death if it's not working, because that's the parlance that we use. I died on stage today. And we feel that death every time, you bomb. Like in today's webinar, I'm sure there must have been occasions where, I cracked a joke and nobody laughed. And I hope nobody could tell that I cracked a joke. And I think that's the uncertainty that, perhaps a lot of us need to get used to, because, and I guess from your journey and from all the other panelists, we can learn that uncertainty by itself is not a bad thing. And it's like Mayank also said, it is pain that drove him to create these things. So what we are seeing as existential challenges could very much be opportunities going forward to re-examine what we're doing. It's like how we said that COVID has accelerated things, work from home, and a lot of these technologies which were maybe 5-10 years in the future are now coming at an accelerated rate. And I can only share from comedy that we are used to very accelerated. If I don't get laughs in the first 30 seconds, I know that I failed. I have to do something different. I have to change. And if I do that in 3 shows, nobody will tell me, no boss will fire me. There'll be no appraisal process. I will just not be on the lineups anymore. Nobody will even bother telling me, which means in some ways, even the feedback loop that we have don't wait for 6 months or a year for an appraisal to tell you that, okay, you're not doing well, that have your own instant feedback loops and have a self-feedback loop that maybe tells you that, you are not ahead of the curve, right now, that maybe you're falling behind and you have to figure out some way. But, we've had a fairly serious discussion so far, so I wanted to lighten things up a little bit. And I thought, I've been feeling a bit like a news anchor, so I thought maybe I should create some controversy. So one question I wanted to ask the panelists here, guys, in IIT Delhi, which hostel did you think was the coolest and why? This is open to the panel. I will come to you, Hari. I will come to you also. Trust me on this. So which hostel in IIT Delhi was the coolest and why? I'm happy to let any of the panelists take this. Please go ahead.
So, see, I think all of us will say that our hostel was the best. Okay, because we were there in it, right?
Yeah.
But every hostel did have a different culture. I don't know whether it has changed now or not. I do recall that Kumaon had a very different culture during our days, for the simple reason that it was the last of the hostels to come up. And so all the wardens were asked to send some boys to this new hostel which was coming up. So all the badmashes of all the hostels were actually sent by the wardens to this new hostel that was coming up. Okay. So therefore it did get a sort of a reputation in the early days. I don't know whether what I'm talking about, a 50-year-old story is any longer valid.
I saw something in chat. Somebody said, obviously Jwala. Okay, that was one of the comments I got from the chat window. It said, obviously Jwala. In fact, Avik, if I were to ask you, which hostel do you think is most likely to throw up a stand-up comedian from IIT Delhi?
So, to answer your first question, obviously Karakoram, right? Tallest amongst all the others, right? The others some of them are just a fraction, but I would argue that Kumaon with Chetan Bhagat being one of the alumni probably is the most well followed from a readership perspective.
Okay. So it's like 5 point someone got the highest readership. That's just the weirdest thing I think that you ever heard. And Mayank, I think we lost you. I believe you just come back now. Do you agree what with Abhik said about his hostel being the coolest? Do you agree with that statement?
No, there's Shivalik, which you have missed out. I mean, it has the best breeze that you get on campus. You have the best views that you get on campus. So I think that bit, Vikram, unfortunately, we'll never get agreement on.
No, that is the idea. That's how I get TRPs, right? I make the panelists disagree with each other. That's how you said we have to market ourselves, right? So this is how I'm marketing myself as a creator of chaos, right? Because as we established, I think chaos theory, right? That's where, ideas come out from. So I also wanted to address Hari. Yes, sir, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
Vikram, the answers have gone on expected lines, so it would be either our own hostel or people would have said Kailash.
Yeah, Vikram.
Okay.
Yeah, say I am from Jwala, and definitely, as PG has told, we take a lot of pride in hostel wise, and the hostel rivalry always kept alive. So
Okay.
I am from Jwala Ke, but since being a current president, I cannot take side because I belong to all hostels now. Till I am in the tenure. So this is my individual observation. Yeah, but hostel has transformed a person like anything. And Jwalamukhi is considered more like to a DO type. My wife never recognized I am IITian. बोला ज्वाला के बंदे IIT के लगते ही नहीं हैं. So we have, I mean, we are more closer to like a DU type culture, the Jwala ki, more of aggressive, I mean, more of like muscular type, and lot of startups. Maximum startup are from Jwala. I mean, our past president Rohit Koshi, our drink we used to tell, you made a mistake going to Kumaon, you should come to Jwala, or at least you are now you accept the membership of the Jwalamukhi hostel informally. So everybody feel proud of their own hostel, and definitely our immediate rival. I mean, one side is Kumaon, another side is Ara. So whenever the current goes, I mean, you can see how we interact, we communicate with each other. All parliamentary language. Over to you, Vikram.
So Ravi, I'm glad that you said you're part of every hostel. That includes Kailash.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
By the way, Vikram, Kailash is the women's hostel.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. I belong to everybody. At this age, I belong to everybody, and being a president, definitely I represent them also. Even though I never visited Kailash, I always have a desire to see how the Kailash look like. It's like not reachable, not my type, or I.
Wow. So I can say clearly when you spoke about the startups कि अगर आप ज्वाला में जाओगे तो आप दुनिया में ज्वालामुखी जरूर create करोगे. I think it's something.
No, even we salute also, like Jai Mata, just like Jai Mata over the drink. So you have Jai Jwala Ki. Whenever we communicate with the senior also, no, Jai Jwala Ki.
Wow. You spoke about parliamentary language also. I have a feeling, I think there's alumni in the chats who have got very engaged in discussion, and I think I'm glad the chat is not on the window and I'm not looking at it because I'm sure there will be unparliamentary references as well. But guys, we are a little bit on time at this point of time. So I'd like to, at this point, leave, a little bit of an audience question. So, if you have any questions from the audience, if you can get a few questions here. And this will be open for all the panelists to address. Any of the panelists can address the question. Unless there's something very specific, I'll pass it in a particular way. If we can have any questions from the audience. And please try to restrict your questions to the webinar and not on which hostel is better. Okay, that's my only request. If that debate has to happen, please have it offline. We'll do a dedicated session for that. Right now, please keep your questions to the webinar that is ongoing. Let me just take a look if we have any questions that have come our way.
Vikram, we actually have a lot of comments and appreciations for all the panelists, and people are really happy. So we currently do not have any questions, but yeah, people have started asking questions.
Okay. Is this in the Q&A window or?
So one of the questions that has come from Sanjay Ghandal. So that is that, can you just summarize the entire talk that we have, especially PG?
I'm sorry, you'll have to repeat the question.
So one question is, can you summarize the entire talk, especially what Pradeep Gupta mentioned?
Okay, this is feeling more like a viva for me now than a question for the moderators. I don't actually, so I think prima facie, some of the things that he spoke about was the entrepreneurial mindset. I think that is the most important takeaway that you can take from some of the things that he spoke about. And since I am merely a Sutradhar, I think that's something I would like to throw open to the panelists. in your view, what is this entrepreneurial mindset? Because see, we have entrepreneurs, we have authors as well, and in this panel, and I'm thinking there might be some people here who are also thinking that in this challenge, let me make it an opportunity. Let me pursue entrepreneurship. Let me pursue my dream of being an author, and I'm sure we both, all agree that either of these dreams is better than the dream of becoming a motivational speaker. I'm sure, a lot of us agree on that. But to the panel, I would like to throw it open, that what in your view is the reason, one should look to become an entrepreneur or an author, what are the right and wrong reasons to consider getting into it? What can people learn from your challenges? I'd like to leave this open to the panel. Anybody can pick this up. Would you like me to repeat the question, or is it clear?
No, the question is absolutely clear. Mayank, I think, you should go first.
No, I think I said mine, Vikram, very clearly that it was a problem that pained me. And I think I was just taught on campus that if it pains you, solve for it. So I think that's that's what drove me. And I also just mentioned that many a time when someone is looking at writing a book or starting off something, they always ask this question, is this the right time? And if that question comes up a lot of times earlier, my personal take is that for starting off something, or for even writing a book, or for taking a new initiative, I've come to a conclusion there's never a right time. And I think all time is a good time. I started and I moved out of my job to sort of starting off something at a time when my kid was born. And I say this multiple times, and whenever my wife hears it from the outside and she says, what nonsense are you talking about? But I decided to quit at the time when my son was born. And I said that, look, I will never get a right time. I will always have a excuse. And I think that has always held. I've always told others that, look, don't think there's a right time. All time is a good time for you to start. You just have to have the conviction to take the plunge. I think second thing for starting off something, Vikram, one of the questions that always helps is when people ask, what's your plan B? And I think I hate that question because if you go with a plan B, you will always have an escape route at the back of your mind. That that my plan B is I can go back to the job, I will earn a crore plus salary or a cushy job, etc. Plan B always makes you lean towards the plan B, which is more comfortable. So I always said that, look, my plan A is that we will be $1 billion plus company. My plan B is that we'll be a $900 million plus valued company or from a revenue perspective. So I said that's the only plan B that I can go with, because if I have a plan B, then I know my plan A is not going to succeed ever.
That's a fantastic point, because in comedy, there is only one plan A. Either you will get laughs in the corporate show, or you will hide in your room and order room service because you don't have to go and face the people at the buffet. I think that's the only plan B. If any of the other panelists would like to add anything.
Yeah, so, I completely agree with what Mayank was saying, that there is, there is no specific time that you become an entrepreneur. In my own case, for example, the first issue of DataQuest came out on 10th of December 82, and I got married just one day before that, on December 82. So, there were lots of things which are happening from September onwards, there's a new company coming up and, getting married and stuff like that. So there is no such thing as that, there is the best time that one should start entrepreneurship. The second point about the plan B also, especially we guys, who got these IIT education and so on, we should not really be bothered about safety nets. We do have an inbuilt safety net with us. You've seen the kind of problems, for example, the migrants faced, when the COVID crisis hit. Why are we bothered about plan Bs? We should not care for them. The ability to take risks is something which is very, very important. And I saw a very nice explanation between, the mindset change between an entrepreneur and somebody who's within a company. And that was defined as a very simple formula, which is ambition greater than resources. Manager would still, live in the ambience of within the ambit of the resources which are available, and would limit his ambition within that. Entrepreneur, his ambition would be, he may have no resources, but his ambition would be absolutely sky high.
I think that's a really wonderful point. And since you spoke about safety net, so one question I did want to ask you, in case your wife is also watching this, according to you, because you mentioned the two events were back to back, which event was more significant, the day of your marriage or the launch of the magazine? Which was the more significant event in your life?
I don't think it was A and B. It was not A or B, so,
okay.
So both things were happening at the same time.
So what we can take away is that your wife was very much plan A always. That, as Mayank said, that the people in your life are essentially always the plan A.
See, there you can, Martin, we can say these are all orthogonal axes. So around different spectrum that you measure each other.
See, I have to feel intelligent in a group of IITians, so I still laughed at that. I'm hoping. I know that we are, pretty short of time now. So I think if there's one question, I had one.
So there is one question that is coming up. So the question is that, is it mandatory to learn coding to stay in jobs in future?
Yeah, that I think is a great question, and
so
probably the best panel to address that.
So it's open to the panel. Is it mandatory to learn coding to stay in jobs in the future?
I can go on and on about it because this is the business that we are in. Maybe I'll touch upon very small. I mean, I personally don't feel coding is mandatory from the fact that, because I think, I mean, very soon we'll get to no code environment and people will have to write sort of their, and people can plug and play their own codes. But my personal take is that I think the ability to actually what Pradeep sir said, that look, the ability to learn and unlearn, I think coding does a very good job of that. The ability to sort of put things in a very sort of logical sequence, structured manner. That learning, I think, is a life skill, not as much as knowing Python, Java, or C++, but just the logical thought process that definitely helps in what the future holds true for some of us, because a lot of jobs that we are doing, Vikram, very soon will get automated. So I think we automating it before others automate it is better, and therefore I think we all go to a next level. And coding is the same thing what, let's say, machines was earlier, that you can sort of switch on an ignition engine and travel from point A to point B. I think coding does the same thing. So you need to know how to switch on the ignition engine. You perhaps need not know how to necessarily sort of build the engine yourself, if I could sort of use that analogy.
Okay. Yeah, I would, strongly agree with that, because, and especially going forward, right? Because, at the time I remember that we were learning coding. Actually, if you think about it, computing resource was actually a constraint, right? And therefore a good coder used to write, efficient, elegant programs which would use less computing power. I mean, if you really think about it, that was the difference between, good coders and not so good coders. But now with computing power actually not being that much of a constraint, the pure coding thing is actually not that important. But if I look at the underlying thing behind it, what was it? You were learning a new language. You were learning how to, whatever, problem solve creatively. And you were, trying to do it in a constrained resource environment. So if you can keep that as the fundamental of the thing that you're learning, rather than language A versus language B, because I'm sure, if Python or C++ is relevant today, maybe 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, that language is going to be, outdated, right? But the fact that you can do that, I think that's the thing which is there. The one other thing, at least my personal learning, has been, I joined the corporate this thing, and my belief was that what you know is the most important thing to succeed. And what you know is very important. But I think the softer skills around, are you able to convince others? Are you able to persuade others? Are you able to inspire others? Especially as you become more senior, only what you know, that is the ticket to play. but in whether you're in a corporate or whether you're an entrepreneur, the ability to influence, inspire, motivate people becomes incredibly powerful. And that's where, if I talk to many of my friends from IIT, I think the part about being what we learned outside the class, whether it is in terms of the sports field or the elections, that's what really is the life skill which is helpful in the long run.
That's Hari, do you have anything to add? Or?
Vikram, I had talked about technology. So, I think it is important to understand the impact of technology. It is important to understand what are the opportunities around that technology, rather than, being just an implementer of technology. So, if you know coding, it is just like implementing a technology. You have to look at a bigger picture.
Yeah, Vikram.
Yeah.
I want to add from my experience. My journeys was like I was technocrat. I mean, I was in VHL for 5 years, then 17 years customs, and then I moved to as entrepreneur. So, but one point I would like to highlight here, that when you learn something or you go in an environment, you get lot of things. You imbibe lot of things. Like I'll give the examples. When I quit my service, I just did one MBA in supply chain logistics. Okay, there I used to sit in a class where some of the students are of like I was of their parents' age. So, but lot of learning happens because when you come from bureaucratic environment and you come to an entrepreneur environment, there are different challenges are there, different ones. So the learning becomes quicker. Then when I came to the market, when I became a consultant by default, then I thought LLB is the good education because the a lot of ideas you get, a lot of learning happens. So it's always to have education because at that age I'm not want to become a topper or want to target in the grades. Even though by default I was in MBA when I was among the top 5, that was by default in LLB also. But I think it's always you should try to learn and try to join some courses. If you want to talk about the coding, you'll get a lot of perspective. Your thinking gets structured. You get a feel of the industry. I mean, you need not to be expert, but that is my take on. Thank you.
I think we've got some fantastic points from all the panelists on this. In some ways, if I can summarize it, since the first question was asking me to summarize things, I think that and please feel free to correct me, any of the panelists, if I haven't got this correct, that don't get caught up with this is my job. See what skill you're taking. You take the principles of coding, take the principles of consulting, take the principles of investment banking, see what you can learn from its structures, and then use that to create, something on your own. To use coding parlance, we can say that it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're doing comedy, you're doing music, you're doing sales, that, you use the language. Ultimately, you're just telling the world, hello world, right? It's one of the first things we learn in coding, right? How to say hello world. And it doesn't matter which language you're using. That should be your focus. You want to tell the world that you're here. And, like for me, I think, for example, the time I spent in consulting, I think taught me how to use, case studies and how to use multiple references, which is what comedy is. It's about analogies. I think a lot of it comes directly from those learnings. I got hired by the Veerdas company, Veerdas, and he didn't hire me because of my comedy skills. So he hired me because of my corporate background, because he wanted a writer for the Aditya Birla Group Awards. So I got hired in a comedy company for my corporate skills. I'd like to believe I was funny also, but hopefully I think, and I think that's the best thing that we can, I'm sure that hopefully all the panelists agree with this, that, focus on what you're taking out of it and don't get caught up, Since we're out of time, I just wanted to address one last thing. Maybe I can just ask Hari one question, since, on the hostel one that you missed out. How is IIT Madras better than IIT Delhi?
Sitting on an IIT Delhi Alumni Association, it is tough to answer this question. No?
Shall I answer?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, please, Hari, you go. Then I'll share this.
No, let me take a seat. I don't. Humor is not my strength, so let me just say that all IITs are good.
Yeah. See, recently we are having an initiative called EduRite, and Times of India Chennai had a story on me. and they asked me about the journalists asked me about how it's going, and I told them that IIT Madras is also our partner. They are also doing along IIT Madras alumni also with us. And because I just asked my team, and who are the IITs apart from IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, they saw IIT Madras is also there. Then he wrote the story that IIT Madras Alumni Association are also part of this initiative. And then from IIT Madras Alumni Association, they wrote, they sent me WhatsApp message and they told, you guys are doing great work, but we are also getting complimented. Then I told, after all IIT are same only. It's an IIT system. So I told that's like, he said that we have a collaborative competitiveness. Collaborative competitiveness means we compete for the best brain, best talent, but we collaborate, we learn from each other. So we are basically IIT system. So it's just like a family. So yes, both IIT are good. I spent 15 years in Chennai, and all the function I used to, for attending the IIT Madras, I used to go there. And when I visited first time IIT Madras campus, and when I saw, oh, this is it's like a nature, like you can see the deer, another thing, hostel. So definitely IIT Madras has its own unique position. I spent 15 years in Chennai. So I used to visit Chennai, Madras very frequently. So yes, that is my token. Both are same, but both have uniqueness. You cannot compare two different fruits or vegetables.
Yes.
They have their own flavor and own color. So you can't say one is potato, another is a Kerala. Both are same. Both have different. Both are vegetable. Both are good for society, good for the human being. That is my call. Thank you.
I completely agree with you, sir. I mean, obviously, I was joking, but I noticed in the chat somebody was getting offended. What a silly question to compare. It's like comparing hostels. Sir, this is the same person who will come on my YouTube stand-up video and he will comment Zakir Khan is funnier. So see, that's the same as silly as comparing hostels and institutes. So all the people who write in a stand-up comedians, this guy is funnier, understand that that comparison is equally ridiculous as the one that I just tried to make. But to build on that message that you made, that each of us have to find a unique flavor, that in fact, as far as possible, we have to get out of the comparison race and, create a unique set based on our experiences, based on our skill sets, so that we are not in this race of comparing, that we find our own path. It don't have to be vertical. It can be sideways, if I feel that, hopefully that's something that the panelists agree with. We are really out of time here. So guys.
Vikram, there is just one last question that.
Okay, we can address it.
Okay, it's open to all panelists again.
Okay.
So what are the potential risks that finance and consulting arenas would be facing considering the impact and pace of automation? I can repeat. Yeah. Go on.
See, the consultant never work with a fixed mindset. You visit a consultant, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a lawyer, whether management consult, whenever you have some unique problem, which the guy is not able to solve it. So when the consultant, consulting as a profession will be always alive, kicking, whether you have a COVID time, post-COVID, pre-COVID, it is like you go with a new challenge, with a new problem set. So, so that's the consulting and the finance. No society, no economy can progress without finance. So both will have the future. And both, yes, different skill set is required. Now you have to be expert when you're talking about the finance like this. You have to be expert on data analytics. You know how the blockchain is going to impact the finance and smart contracting. A lot of other things are there, cryptocurrency or sort of new things are there. So yes, you have to comprehend those things. But the basic things will not change. The basic that yes, as a consultant, whether Lord Krishna was a consultant to Pandavas or whether the current society, the management consultant or other consultant, or they'll be there. That's what I from my side.
So Vikram, on a lighter note, finance वालों का तो काम हमेशा ही रहता है. I mean, either they are getting you loans, or they are restructuring your loans, or they are collecting your loans. So they will work on whichever side, wherever the opportunity is, right? And I think that is the kind of a thing that each individual in each and every area also has to see, that where are the opportunities, where are the shifts that are taking place, and therefore where I need to reorient myself.
Anyone else, Rick or anyone else wants to add anything on this, or we can move on?
No, I think, you know, you need to keep on upgrading yourself. I think that's the thing, right? You can't rest on the laurels of what you have learned in the last 5 years. You have to take a forward-looking view. And you know, the fact is, yes, technology is changing stuff. Technology is, making things automated. One has to constantly keep on learning and staying ahead.
Hari, is there anything you would like to add on this? Or
I'd just like to simply say that, technology and automation has been the biggest job creation engine in the history of mankind. It has always created more jobs than it has killed. So, for example, when dynamite was invented, people thought, those who were, digging with shovels will lose their jobs. They didn't lose their jobs. Actually, you could build a Panama Canal, you could build the Suez Canal, you could build the Bhakra Nangal Dam because of dynamite. So I think technology enables you to do things which you could never do before. It could help you to do procedures in medicine in hospitals that you could never do before. So mostly it helps you to do things you've never done before, but in the process it kills a few jobs. But as Abhi said, people need to constantly upgrade themselves, learn new things to stay relevant.
I think that's an incredible point that a lot of us are constantly, I think it's being rubbed in our, this thing, that technology is a challenge, technology is a problem. And I think that's a brilliant point. So one thing, of course, we've learned is that if you're not really sure what's happening with your career, you can always invent dynamite and see where that takes you. The other thing also is something I showed Mr. Pradeep also yesterday. We got a cleaning robot, the Konga 1090, in the pandemic when my mom and I were really scared in lockdown, how we'll manage things, because she's 65 plus and, will the load on her be too much? And, there was this whole, I think so many households, everybody was facing this challenge. And, we found this cleaning robot and it actually problem, at a fairly reasonable cost. So technology can really, now think about the entire ecosystem that can be built around these cleaning robots. Companies could provide this on a, rental basis. The whole new, way of can happening. The only thing is, as I mentioned earlier also, that it got stuck under a stool in my house for 5 minutes. It could not navigate its way out. So I had to switch off the poor thing and pull him out. So if you're worried about AI taking over your job, don't worry, that's still catching up. But I think we should take the takeaways that, let technology be your friend and don't turn it into something that you need to fear. If you embrace it, it can be your friend. Natasha, I believe we, as such, we have time for another question, or should I wrap up at this point?
I think we should wrap up. We have already covered most of the points.
Okay. So just to close, everyone, I just like to add, I think today we have Teachers Day, right? It's 5th September. And I think all the audience who's attended today, I think, you realize you're, of course, each other's teachers, and you've had some amazing teachers in this session today, all the panelists. We've had some senior professors. So I think, it's been a great blessing that in this new normal also, where there are so many challenges, but this medium is allowing us to have so many teachers available. Normally we would have one teacher. On a personal note, I just like to add, as I mentioned earlier, that for me, one of my teachers, of course, was my late father. His journey from, BITS, IMA, from where he came from, like he taught himself English by reading the Reader's Digest, the quotes, when we didn't have the kind of solutions that Upgrade and other companies are able to provide today. That those who want to learn and want to innovate and want to survive and thrive, they will find a way. In fact, when my father went for an interview with the chairman of the Goenkas group, the Goenkas group chairman actually asked him, ki, Podar ji, aap Jhunjhunu mein kaun se gaon se ho? And my father said, Dhundlot. And the Goenkas chairman said, ki Dhundlot se koi graduate hi nahi hota hai. वहां से अगर आप बिट्स और IIM अहमदाबाद चले गए तो फिर इंटरव्यू की कोई जरूरत ही नहीं, आप कल से ज्वाइन कर लो. See, I'm sure my dad was very happy when he heard this, but I'm sure in his head he was also thinking something like, yeah, इसने भी कोई खास सवाल जवाब किए नहीं, ये भी कोई खास पढ़ा लिखा लग नहीं रहा है. And that we got fax machines into India in 1986, so he was far ahead of this curve in a lot of times. And of course, in recent times, comedy and so many other things have been teachers. But I think the best part of this journey has been that I get to interact with so many people. I could never imagine speaking to the kind of luminaries on this panel. Comedy as a career has allowed me to do that, to be able to interact, that each of you spent half an hour with me. I think even as an investment banker, I don't think I would have got that time or, that you guys have shared. And so I think the best teaching for me has come from this journey. And On that note, I'd like to close this session, unless if any of the panelists want to give any last remark, or else we can hand over. If there's any panelist wants to add anything as we close.
Yeah, Vikram.
Yes.
I mean, just one this message you can give to this, that EduRite, one initiative of IIT, IIM, alum, so we are providing the transport connection to the needy students, aspiring belonging to poor family. So that initiative is of IIT and IIM and other education institutes also. But now we want to extend to the NEET program also, that are medical, those aspiring for medical colleges. So you can leave one message, you can appeal them that they can come generously, donate the money to IIT Delhi Alumni website, and come forward. We can come as a volunteer also. This is one appeal. We want to serve maximum number of the students. We don't want them to that they struggle like we have our Abdul Kalam Azad. He has struggled a lot in the childhood time, and our honorable Prime Minister, he has sold the tea. But we want the talent should not be deprived of opportunity. We should, because we are living in the world where we have a Mercedes on one side, other side the people are not able to get even transportation to reach the examination center to participate. We should allow them to participate. Like Karada could not get an opportunity to participate in the competition of Mahabharata. So we have to become more inclusive, more sensitive to the societal need. So I just want you to just appeal the people to come forward and take the initiative, EduRite initiative, to a next high level. Come forward to donate and come as a volunteer. That's my take on. I just want you to just appeal.
Thank you very much. And as an appeal, guys, I'd just like to add one final note. Today, in fact, the day, today, 5th September, exactly 5 years ago was, in fact, when my father passed away. And, I spoke to my mom, should I be doing this session? And we both felt that, knowing where he came from, and the way he always looked ahead, I think he would have been more than happy and proud that today we are dealing with this august audience, and, we are in this situation today to help a lot of people connect. So I just like to close on that note in terms of, you have enough teachers, you have enough people, most of you are blessed with an amazing alumni association, there faculty out here who wants to help out. So help is something that's always available. And on that note, I'd like to thank everybody from the IIT Delhi Alumni Association, the IIM Ahmedabad Mumbai chapter Alumni Association. Of course, our esteemed panelists. I know we can't hear it, but can we please have a rousing round of applause for all of them here? And on that note, I'd just like to hand over to Prakash for the closing address. Thank you. You guys have been an amazing audience.
Thank you, Vikram. You have been really wonderful. And I would respond to you in two ways. Your father, I believe, was 1 year senior to me in IIM Ahmedabad. He passed out 76, I passed out 77. I'm sure I must have interacted with him, although I may not remember currently. Second thing is, I think you have a competitor. We from IIT Delhi have a good comedian, although I would say classically he's B2C, not B2B like you. He's Amit Tandon. He's also become a global comedian and a stand-up comedian.
Correct.
It's been a very interesting session. We have had a lot of learning, we had a lot of banter, a lot of hostel talk. I was reminded of my days 50 years back when I joined all of us from 5 hostels that time. Kailash, of course, was the other end of the main block. 5 of us starting from the hostels early morning, rushing, grabbing like today, gradually warm up. Initially, the start was low. Then the number of people picked up. I'm sure all IITians wake up late on Saturdays. So walking from hostels and then pulling each other's leg near the, I would say, the hospital block, the sick bay, and then moving to the hostel again, coming back for lunch, reminded me of my good old days at IIT on the campus. So thank you very much. And as they say, all good things must come to an end, although we would like to have this discussion continuing for much more time. And coincidentally, I was observing, even till now, the number of people participating has still maintained more. It started with 200 plus. Right now also, we have been able to maintain at 150, 160 people. That's the power of this panel. Very great, I would say, contribution. It's my privilege to now propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion and the Teachers' Day. on behalf of IIT Delhi Alumni Association Mumbai chapter and their respected committee members, Ravi, Rohit Koshi and Kalpen Shukla, a very heartfelt vote of thanks to all the panelists, Pradeep, Mayank, Hari, Abhik, for spending their valuable time with us and also sharing their views and opinions on this topical theme of today. Thanks is also due to today's moderator, that's Vikram Podar. Extremely great, made us aware that okay, intellect and humor can still coexist and we can still enjoy despite the serious times over here. A vote of appreciation for all the audience members who woke up early on a Saturday morning and still continue to be with us 1.5 hours post this program started. And finally, for all the supporting organizations, IIM Ahmedabad Alumni Association, Careers for Sure, the Boardroom Company, a sincere and wholehearted applause and felicitation for all of you. 3 cheers also for the organizing committee of this, the back-end team of IIT Delhi Alumni Association, especially Gaurav, Natasha and Satish, for the perfect program communication and logistic support extended to all of us. If some people have been asking on this Q&A and chat regarding the takeaways, yes, we are definitely going through very unprecedented, unpredictable and very challenging times. But I can say with fair amount of confidence, having seen a fair amount of ups and downs, not this type of magnitude. I don't think anyone in their own lifetime would have seen the magnitude of this type in terms of the economy, the job losses, and people reaching very difficult situations. I would say this too shall pass. It's a matter of time, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, whenever this too shall pass. Some learning, especially from all the panelists. One is relearn, reorient yourself. These are changing times, teams are changing, and as we are seeing, a new norm is emerging. So we have to keep track with the new norm, change with the times. Second thing, I think Abhik did mention about personal branding to establish yourself in today's conditions. You have to stand out from the crowd if you are to succeed. Third is, I think Pradeep Gupta also dwelled on it and Hari to some extent. Technology is the key player in today's world. We have to move with the technology, embrace technology, otherwise it will overwhelm us. Ultimately, even despite these difficult times, there are a lot of positive green shoots that emerge. We, in our midst also, we have 2 people. One is Vikram Podar. Despite, I think, having a difficult time 2008-9, he turned out into a new profession, reinvented himself and became a very class, I would say, moderator and a class humorist. As he said, he made the transition from boardroom to boardroom. I think both sound the same, but spellings are significantly different. Same thing, Mayank, from a time of difficulty and despair to establishing one of the most successful EdTech organizations in India today. So I think there's a lot of positive and possibilities that emerge from these difficult situations. We now bring this webinar to a close. Wish you a great weekend and a great time. I'm sure good times will come back. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Let's close.